Scream, the horror franchise that, like so many others, refuses to stop. While other franchises fell into the reboot trap when they began to run out of ideas, or began to turn into something completely different that barely feels like any of its original predecessors, the Scream franchise is still going strong at the ripe old age of 27, having debuted in 1996, and since then, what we've got is probably my favourite horror franchise. Say what you want about the sequels, but I had a blast with each and every one of them. The beauty of this franchise comes from its simplicity, its repeated but iconic lines that still get you excited even to this day, how the killer changes with each film while the Ghostface costume still remains, how each killer has basically the same motivation but with their own unique twist, how it's always so self-aware of the tropes and movie rules it's using, how there's a horror franchise within the films based on the events of the very films that you're watching. I could go on all day, but basically, the clear love from the writers and creators behind these films is what makes them so special, and if you're a horror fan, you can't deny the joy of hearing your favourite horror movie being referenced, or the many Easter eggs that the franchise provides along the way, as well as the very blatant but fun nostalgia that comes with the newer releases. Anyway, Scream 6 is the latest Scream movie to arrive in cinemas, and follows the same group from the previous film. Well, the ones that are still alive, I mean. And for the first time in the franchise, takes place outside of Woodsboro, and instead we're in New York, where Tara and her friends are now going to college, and where her sister Sam is also living because, well, it'd be troubling if she didn't. Anyway, life is starting to feel normal again, a year since the traumatic events of the previous film occurred, but when Ghostface makes a comeback, the group have to stick together and use their movie knowledge to piece together a plan to defeat this murderer once again, and possibly for all. And man, did I enjoy the fuck out of this movie. While it's not perfect by any means, what I will say is that it was made by the fans for the fans. If you know the franchise, it's practically a love letter to everything that's great about the films and why they're still going on even to this day. From the references to previous films, to the constant mystery behind every character, to the return of a fan favourite, this film does service to what Wes Craven put together, and more. Now, the previous film had a difficult task with introducing a brand new set of protagonists that would seemingly be the face of the franchise going forward. It's a risky play to continue a series of films where the original main players are no longer a major part of the story, but while the 2022 requel had its flaws and didn't necessarily get me on board with the new characters at play, this film changed that. Firstly, the main players in Tara and Sam have such a close-knit bond after the events of the previous movie, and, well, as you know, being siblings, and them working together is one of the best things that comes from this film. Tara just wants to live a normal young adult life, trying her best to move on from the horrendous events that came her way, but she's also willing to accept the reality that she lives in, even if it's not her fault, and takes risks to defeat Ghostface and protect her friends. Sam especially has her troubles, constantly wondering if she's meant to be the very thing she's trying to destroy, and it's not made any easier when the world has twisted a narrative to make her look like the villain of her own story, which is something that actually happens to a lot of well-known figures today, but I won't go down that rabbit hole, don't worry. Basically, she's struggling to find a normal life again, constantly overthinking and being extra careful who she allows into her life and around the people she's closest with, and I mean, you can't blame her. But in the midst of all this, she still has people she can trust, and I think that the elements of friendship and willingness to put others before yourself in this film just shows how close and caring the main characters are to one another. The film does a great job at making the friendships in the film feel genuine, and allows the audience to relate and see themselves in these characters, especially movie buffs. And coming into this story from the last film and what they've all been through together, them all sticking by one another and doing everything they can to keep one another safe not only warms your heart, but gets you rooting for these guys on a much greater level, where previously they felt more like just a bunch of high school teenagers with a death wish, while here they feel more like a family, and you can feel their collective frustration around not knowing who to trust or what to believe, and it adds a greater layer to the storytelling which feels true to the originals. This film also brings back a personal favourite of mine in Kirby, probably the best thing to come from the 2011 sequel that I can't say I took a massive liking to overall. And while a lot of these sort of legacy cameos can feel forced or done because, you know, no one's going to watch your film otherwise, this one really works. I mean, with a horror film starring one of the most popular actresses in the world right now, who's just been in a huge Netflix series, people are going to see this film regardless. And even though I highly suggest that you watch the previous 5 films before this one, if you haven't already, as it will add so much more to the viewing experience than if you don't. If you haven't seen the 4th movie, you'll like and care about this character, and if you have seen the 4th movie, you'll very much like and care about this character. Her addition works because she has every right to want revenge, now working for the FBI in order to prevent anyone else going through what she had to endure herself, and with her history having been best friends, as well as having a crush on a Ghostface, I think it's fair to say that she can relate to the others and help them with their situation. Gale also returns, seemingly the final character left after Dewey's brutal end and Sidney's absence, and she's fine in the film. She doesn't really have the greatest role to play, basically there to let the audience know that she's still out here writing books and profiting off other people's traumatic experiences. But hey, she's back, has her time in the film, but it's nothing crazy. Anyway, having spoken about the characters, I should probably talk about the acting. Every character basically does what they need to do and is portrayed as much as the script calls for, with Jenny Ortega as Tara once again being a standout, proving that she has a huge promise and potential going forward in her career. And shout out to Hayden Panettiere for returning to acting after 4 years to put in a strong performance as Kirby. Big up Kirby, man. Now, moving on to the change in location, it was actually genuinely a refreshing change for the series, and shows that the franchise has very much moved on from Sydney Palmer and Woodsboro now, which is only reinforced by the Ghostface reveals at the end. And while it would have been nice to see a cameo from Sydney, I think that having her absent also lets you know that the Ghostface killings are much bigger than just her now, and that the films don't have to rely on her in a sense, and that the previous killers have very much done enough damage to put an end to her place in the story, and it just makes you wonder what they could have in store for possible sequels ahead. I mean, the basic premise and structure that each of the films have won't change, but if they're going to make another movie with greater stakes and gore, a good story, solid execution, and characters that I care about, sign me up. By the way, if gore is your thing, this film delivers enough to satisfy any horror fan, bringing the brutalness that is required with the 6th film in a franchise that's still going strong. No complaints to be had on that front. But as for some of my issues, I'd say that Sam's new love interest, Danny, was wasted potential. I would have thought that seeing another guy this soon after her previous boyfriend would have been off the table, but people have needs, I guess. Anyway, regardless, considering what happened with her ex, his role could have been more developed and had a bigger part to play that gave him more moments where you'd question if the guy could be the killer or not. And apart from one major instance in the film, he's just kind of on the side, there just kind of for the sake of Sam having a love interest. And while the actor's appearance did bring back some deep trauma, I just wish he had a greater impact on the story. But that's just my take. There's also moments that seem a bit too silly or don't make a ton of sense logically when you take the time to consider what you just witnessed, and there's certain outcomes which just shouldn't happen. And while I've expressed my love for a lot of the aspects that they include in each movie, there's others that I just don't like as much. One being the dialogue before they try to kill their target, which, you know, works when you're explaining your master plan and that you're a crazy person, you know, out here killing people. But once that's over, you know, you can just get the job done. There's also people who make it out alive after going through enough damage to die 10 times over, and I think that this film just held back in a lot of ways. But if they're going to make sequels, they've got to hold back somewhat to keep people engaged in future films, I guess. I'm not saying I want a sequel, but you know, if that's the case, then so be it. Overall though, it was a really engaging movie. It proves that the franchise is in good hands, with competent filmmakers who know what the people want, and it just made me smile to see a film made with such care, inspiration, and tribute to the man who started it all. So, that's my review for Scream 6. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, you know, all that jazz. It's up to you though, I'm not going to force you. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.